It was an early Sunday morning when Victor decided the time had arrived. He had endured enough, and now it was time to reveal everything. He had spent months preparing himself for this moment, gathering the strength to expose the painful truth. He was tired of hiding. Victor sat in the living room, the old, worn leather sofa creaking beneath him. Rachel was in the kitchen, muttering about the lack of decent food, and Vanessa was in her room, staring at her phone, scrolling through pictures of her old life. He stood up, walked to the drawer where he had placed the letter, and unfolded it. The words were simple but heavy with consequence. Dear Rachel and Vanessa, the past few weeks have been a test, and I know it has been difficult for all of us. But I must reveal the truth now. I am not bankrupt. I never was. I had my wealth moved into an offshore account, and I shut down all my companies. The bankruptcy was a lie, carefully constructed to see who truly loved me. I wanted to know if you loved me or the life I provided for you. Victor paused. He had read the letter countless times, each word sinking deeper into his soul. But now he had to deliver it. No turning back. Rachel walked into the living room, her arms crossed and a scowl on her face. What now, Victor? You're just going to sit here, wasting away like the man you've become. Victor stood and faced her, holding the letter tightly in his hand. Sit down, Rachel. There's something you need to know. She rolled her eyes. This better be good. I've had enough of your stupid games. Vanessa appeared at the doorway, her phone now set aside. What's going on, Dad? You look serious. Victor could feel his heart pounding in his chest. This was it, the moment of truth. He handed the letter to Rachel, who snatched it with a look of annoyance. As she read, the color drained from her face. Her eyes flicked from the letter to Victor's face, disbelief written across her features. What is this? She stammered, her voice trembling. You're not broke? Victor shook his head slowly. I never was. Rachel stood, shaking her head. But all this time, the humiliation, the hardship, we've been living like this, and it was all a test? You made us suffer just to see if we loved you? Yes, Victor replied quietly. I needed to know if you loved me or the money. Vanessa's eyes filled with sudden understanding, and the anger she had been harboring started to shift into guilt. Dad, you mean you've had money this whole time? She whispered, barely able to believe it. I do, Victor said, his voice steady. But I wanted to see if without it, you would still be here with me, if you would still love me. Rachel stared at him for a long moment, then a small, bitter laugh escaped her lips. So all this time, it was about you, wasn't it, Victor? You think we don't love you? You think we care so little for you that we would only stick around for your wealth? She turned away, her voice rising. You're right. I did love your money. And now, I see what you've done to us. You ruined us, Victor. We were fine before. You made us into these people. You made me into this person. Vanessa's voice cracked as she finally spoke up. But it's true, Dad. I always thought there would be something better if I stuck with the wealthy life. I didn't care about anything else. Not really. Victor's heart broke all over again, but he didn't let it show. He had known, deep down, that his worst fears would be confirmed. His family's love had been conditional, based entirely on his wealth and status. Rachel's face twisted in fury, but there was a flicker of shame too. This isn't what I wanted for us. I thought you were just a fool for giving it all away, but now I see what you were really doing. Victor let out a sigh, feeling the heavy weight of years of doubt and pain lift from his shoulders. You've shown me who you really are, Rachel. And Vanessa, I've seen who you've become, but it's too late for me to fix that. The silence that followed was thick. No one spoke. Rachel was the first to leave, storming out of the house with nothing more than a bitter remark. I should have known. I'm done with this charade. Vanessa didn't say a word either. She simply turned and walked away, her face red with shame and regret. Victor sat in the now silent house, his hands trembling, but his heart oddly light. He had uncovered the truth. The family he had cherished, his wife and daughter, were strangers. And though the truth had torn them apart, it had set him free. The silence in the house felt heavier than any physical weight Victor had ever known. He stood in the center of the small living room, staring at the door through which his wife and daughter had just walked out. He had expected them to be angry, but he hadn't anticipated just how deeply the betrayal would cut. Hours passed, but no one returned. Rachel had stormed off, her anger still palpable in the air, while Vanessa's quiet departure felt like a dagger in his chest. They had both chosen the easy path of bitterness rather than facing the hard truth. Victor had believed that by revealing his plan, he would somehow heal their fractured family. But now he was left alone, stranded in the very life he had hoped would bring them closer. The house felt more like a prison with every passing minute. By late evening, the house was pitch black, the only light coming from the flickering candle he had set on the table. The once glamorous life he'd built seemed like a distant memory, fading as he sat there, unmoving, his thoughts swirling in endless cycles of pain and realization. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Victor didn't look up immediately, unsure if it was Rachel or Vanessa returning to confront him again. But when he did, he saw her. Rachel, standing in the doorway, her face tired and weary, yet still holding the defiance that had become her trademark. She closed the door behind her with a soft click and walked over to him, her steps slow and deliberate. "You're still here," Victor said, his voice a mixture of disbelief and relief. He hadn't expected her to come back, not after everything had unfolded. Rachel didn't answer immediately. She sat down across from him, her eyes heavy with the weight of their shared history. For a long time, neither spoke. The only sound was the soft crackle of the candle flame. Finally, Rachel broke the silence. "Victor, I'm sorry." Victor's breath caught in his throat. "What?" "I'm sorry," she repeated, her voice quieter this time. "For everything, for the way I've treated you, for the way I've used you. I know I haven't been the person you wanted me to be. I've been selfish." Victor sat back, stunned by her words. This wasn't the anger-fueled rant he had expected. There was something different in her tone, genuine remorse. But as he searched her face, he couldn't help but wonder if it was just another act. "I've been a fool," Rachel continued, her eyes filled with regret. "I never loved you the way I should have. Not truly. I loved your money, your status. I thought that's what I needed. But seeing you like this, seeing how you've been so willing to give everything up just to see if we loved you, it's made me see how wrong I was." Victor's heart raced. Could this be real? Was this an attempt to get back into his good graces? "I've been with someone else," Rachel admitted, her voice trembling. "Patrick, he's been coming around. I used him as a crutch, but he's nothing. He means nothing. I only ran to him because I was scared. Scared of being without you, without all the comforts and luxuries." Victor's pulse quickened. He had known about Patrick, but hearing Rachel admit it aloud somehow felt worse. "Rachel," he said, his voice firm but quiet, "you're telling me this now? After everything? After what you did to me? After the way you humiliated me in front of everyone?" She lowered her gaze, her face turning red with shame. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I don't expect it. But I wanted you to know that I see what I did, and I regret it. I really do." Victor remained silent, staring at the candle flickering between them. He had always believed that if he could just give his family everything, they would love him back, but he was wrong. The truth was, they had been using him all along. Rachel took a deep breath, her voice now softer. "Victor, I need you to understand something. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. Not yet, at least. But I want to try and make things right. I want to rebuild what we had, if you'll let me." Victor stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. He wasn't sure if he was ready to let her back in. The pain of her betrayal was still raw, still fresh. But as he looked at her, her vulnerability, her brokenness, he saw something he hadn't noticed before. Was this a sign that she had changed, or was it just another mask? "I don't know if I can forgive you, Rachel," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "What you did was unforgivable, but maybe, just maybe, we can start over, from the ground up." Rachel looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. "You'd give me another chance?" Victor's gaze softened. "Maybe, but it won't be easy. We have a long road ahead, Rachel. A very long road." Rachel nodded, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I'm ready for that. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. Just don't give up on me." Victor turned away, stepping toward the window and looking out at the vast, empty land that stretched beyond the village. He had a long way to go, but for the first time in months, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could rebuild something real. Something that wasn't built on wealth or lies. And as the darkness of the night settled around him, he knew one thing for certain. The road to healing was not going to be easy, but it had to start somewhere. The days that followed were filled with cautious silence and subtle tension. Rachel tried to prove herself, cooking, cleaning, even accompanying Victor to the small local farm he had begun helping at, but Victor remained guarded. He appreciated the effort, yes, but the wound was still fresh. Her betrayal, the cruel words, the lies, those things could not be erased overnight. Still, Rachel's change seemed genuine. She no longer wore the thick makeup and flashy clothes that once defined her. She no longer spent hours scrolling on her phone, searching for admiration. Instead, she listened, really listened, to Victor when he spoke. She laughed at his old jokes, asked him how he slept, how he felt. These little things, though small, began to shift something deep within him. Yet one person remained absent, Vanessa. Victor thought of his daughter constantly. Days had passed with no word from her. He didn't know where she had gone or who she was with. He feared that her pride, her shame, or worse, her bitterness, might have swallowed her whole. Then one afternoon, as Victor and Rachel sat beneath a tree near the edge of the village, the unexpected happened. A dusty car rolled up the dirt road, halting in front of the house. From it stepped Vanessa. But she was different. She looked tired, worn out, her usually perfect hair tied back in a messy bun, her clothes plain and unbranded. She stood still for a long time, eyes scanning the humble home she had once called a cage. Victor stood up, stunned. "Vanessa?" She walked slowly toward him, her eyes already misting. "Dad," she whispered. Without another word, she collapsed into his arms, tears pouring down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I was so wrong." Victor held her tightly, his chest heavy with emotion. He had waited for this moment, hoped for it, but he never expected it to actually come. "I didn't understand," Vanessa continued. "I thought love was about what you could give us, your money, your lifestyle. But when I left, I saw people who had nothing but were happy. They had real families, real joy, and I had none of that." She turned to Rachel, who stood watching, stunned. "Mom, I blamed you too, for everything, but I now know I was part of the problem." Rachel stepped forward cautiously. "Vanessa, I never wanted to raise you to be like that, but I got lost in the lifestyle too. I forgot what mattered." Victor looked at both of them, his wife and daughter, standing before him now, not as flawless figures of wealth, but as broken, humbled people. People who had finally begun to understand the meaning of love without condition. This was the final test. He had not intended for it to stretch this long. He had not known how far it would go. But now, the results were clear. They had both failed him in the beginning. Rachel had cheated and mistreated him. Vanessa had abandoned him. But now, they had returned, not because of money, not because he was rich again, but because they realized what truly mattered. Victor cleared his throat, his voice deep and steady. "I have one last thing to tell you both." Rachel and Vanessa turned to him, tense and expectant. He pulled a small remote from his pocket and clicked it. Behind them, a loud vroom echoed as a sleek black SUV pulled up from behind the trees, followed by two bodyguards and his assistant, Daniel. Vanessa's mouth dropped open. Rachel gasped. "I never lost my wealth," Victor said softly. "Everything you've seen here, the village life, the struggles, the broken roof, it was all part of a test to see who you were without the money, to see if you loved me when there was nothing left." Tears rolled down Vanessa's face again. Rachel collapsed onto the bench, her hands covering her mouth. "Oh my God. I needed to know the truth," Victor continued. "And now I do." Daniel stepped forward, handing Victor a file. Inside it were documents, full access to his empire, a letter of resignation from the fake loan company, and a plan to relaunch all his businesses. "You're going back to the city?" Rachel asked, her voice shaking. Victor looked between them. "Yes, but I'm not taking the past back with me." Vanessa stepped forward, terrified. "What do you mean?" Victor turned his eyes to Rachel. "I've decided to go alone, for now. Rachel, I believe people can change, but trust is earned, not given. I need space, time. As for you, Vanessa, I want you to come with me. I believe you're still young enough to build a better version of yourself." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "You're leaving me behind?" "I'm giving you time," Victor said gently. "Time to truly find yourself, without pretending, without games. If you still want this family a year from now, come and find me. If your love is real, you'll wait." Rachel wept silently but nodded in understanding. Victor turned to Vanessa. "We'll start over. You and me. Together." And with that, they entered the SUV, leaving behind the dusty roads and broken trust. As they drove away, Victor didn't feel bitter. He felt free. The truth had come at a high cost, but it had also given him the one thing money never could: clarity.